This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 369 for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this week, Mr. Lou Page is back from a summer hiatus, and he's going to tell you all about that in just a minute. In the meantime, you can listen to Zombies Ate My Podcast, his podcast with Ryan Murphy, and find him at Busy Zombie Lord on all the social media that matters. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me back.
Hey, of course.
Feels like it's been way too long.
It's been a couple of months for sure, but you've had a new edition to deal with.
Yes. July 3rd, sorry. About an hour before July 4th, my daughter Violette was born. So that's been an adventure. She was born a month early.
Yeah, that'll keep you on your toes for sure. And you guys, I mean, you didn't plan that very well. She could have had fireworks every year on her birthday, but no.
Well, as my father put it, no. Now she gets 2 days of partying because she gets the day before 4th of July.
There you go.
And then she gets to party again the next day. And I'm like, Dad, don't encourage that.
Yeah. You have all day to sleep on July 4th to sleep off the hangover from your birthday before you go out again for some fireworks and some barbecue.
Yeah.
Oh man. So how has life been as a dad the first couple of months?
So far, so good. We've been told by every parent and every family member that has met the baby that we are extremely lucky. I'm getting almost a full night's sleep.
Wow.
Most nights. There's been a few exceptions, but we're going on 6 weeks now, and she sleeps for about 3 or 4 hour stretches at night. So usually I'll go to bed at about midnight, and then sometime between 3 and 4 o'clock, we'll get up and feed her again. And then again, between 7 and 8, she'll get up again, and that's when we'll get up for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And most nights she'll stay down right after we feed her. There's been a few exceptions where she's had an upset stomach and it's kept her up all night, but 9 times out of 10, we're pretty much getting a full night's rest.
Now, are you guys taking turns, or are you both just getting...
We started out taking turns, and it turned into a mess where one of us wasn't getting enough sleep, and then the other was getting not enough sleep either, but in a different direction. And then it meant one of us was getting up in the morning, and the other one was sleeping in, and then the other one was taking a nap, and it was just like we were all over the place, and we felt lost. So what we've been doing now is... my wife, Erica, usually goes to bed a few hours before me anyway, because I tend to stay up too late. And we're continuing to just do our normal routine. And then when it's time to feed the baby in the middle of the night, we're both getting up so that one can do the diaper change while the other gets the bottle ready.
Nice.
And then feed the baby. It takes about 20 minutes. And then tuck her back into bed. And then boom, we're both back in bed. And it takes like 20 minutes. Whereas if one of us is doing it, it takes like 45 minutes to an hour.
And then you're awake. Like I mean, it's 20 minutes. Like that's, I mean, I don't have
that's
any
a pee break.
Yeah, like I don't have any experience with kids, or even looking after kids that are that young. Any kids I've ever looked after have always been like, in the older ranges of like 7 to 10. But for me, in terms of like being woken up in the middle of the night, if I'm awake for an hour, I might as well just get up and just call it a wash and maybe nap later on in the day. But if I'm only up for a few minutes, even if it's 20 or less, I can usually get back to sleep. It's
and our whole hospital thing was a nightmare.
Oh, really? That sucks.
My wife was supposed to be due the end of July, and she ended up with what's called preeclampsia.
Mm-hmm.
And she had super high hypertension. Her blood pressure was 190 over 120.
Holy smoke!
Which is literally like borderline. You're gonna have a stroke. So she was going into the her blood pressure wasn't that high, but it was getting high, and so she had a regular doctor's visit, and we went to the regular doctor's visit, and before the doctor saw her, they went, well, we're going to do the blood pressure and do your weight and do all that stuff, and then they checked her blood pressure and they said, yeah, we're going to ask you to leave, we're going to cancel your appointment, we want you to get back in the car and have your husband drive you up to Maine Medical Center right now. And she went, why? And they said, well, your blood pressure is way too high. It's too dangerous. You're going to have the baby today.
Wow.
And we were like, wait, what? And they were like, yeah, nope, go right now. And so we had to go through what's called, they had to induce a labor, and they give you meds, and then they take 8 hours to work. And then if it doesn't work, they got to give you more meds. And then if that takes 8 hours, and if that doesn't work, they give you this other thing. And that takes like 12 hours. Then they do this procedure where they use a balloon to try and force you into labor. And every time they're doing this, they would check my wife after and be like, yeah, you're not even dilated. And we were like, yeah, can we just do the C-section now and be done with this? And they said, no, we have to exhaust all of our options before we do that.
Right.
And we were like, no, we're telling you right now, your options, we've done 3 of them already. It's not working. Can we just do the C-section? And they were like, no, we're going to get this. And we were like, we understand you think you're going to. We're telling you it's not going to work. And they were like, no, we're going to keep trying. So 3 days later, we had a doctor change. And the new doctor, who was a woman and not a guy, came in, looked at my wife, looked at me. We hadn't slept in 3 days. And she had been in pain for basically the constant pain for the whole 3 days.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to force labor. And the woman looked at her, looked at me, and said, I think we're going to do a C-section. And we were like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Somebody's actually listening.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, no. She's like, no. Like, we should have done this yesterday.
Yeah.
And we're like, thank God. And literally like, what? Unfortunately, we have to wait for an operating room. And the next operating room availability is 8 o'clock tonight. And it's noontime. So you got to go in 8 more hours like this. And we're like, all right, we've gotten this far. We can do it.
Wow. I hear that more and more from friends lately that may or may not have to deal with different either doctor or hospital visits where like the doctor seems to like insist on knowing best without really listening to the patient. And it seems to be a more common occurrence than it used to.
And the thing that was crazy for us is Erica's mom had to have all 4 of her kids C-section because of the way her pelvis is shaped. Her hips were too narrow. And we've told every doctor this. And then the doctor that performed the C-section literally looked at Erica and said, oh yeah, this baby was never coming naturally. Your hip the top of your hips are too narrow. The baby's head never would even fit.
Wow.
And we were like, so we went through 3 days of pain for no reason. They didn't want to do x-rays because it can be dangerous to the baby.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why they didn't realize it. But they basically told us, oh yeah, if you have any more, this is the way you're going. We were like, oh, okay, good. They're like, you won't have to go through this ever again.
At least you know now, I guess. And everybody's, despite an unpleasant experience, I mean, everybody's healthy and happy.
Everybody's happy and healthy. That was the other fun part. Is Violet was born a month early, and when we went for her last ultrasound about 3 weeks before she was born, they told us she was about 6 pounds, almost 7. And so while we're in the hospital, they keep telling us, oh yeah, no, she's going to be a preemie. She's going to have to go down to the NICU ward and they're going to have to monitor her and they're going to do this. And I kept telling them, well, how big are usual babies that go to the NICU? And they're like, oh yeah, 4 or 5 pounds. And I'm like, we just had an ultrasound 3 weeks ago and they said the baby's over 6 pounds. So, and she's almost 7. So doesn't that mean that like, she probably won't need to go to the NICU. And they're like, oh no, she's going to need to go to the NICU. She's going to need to go to the NICU. And then lo and behold, she was born and she was 7.5 pounds. And they were like, oh, she's full term. We were like, no kidding. Really? Like at every turn, it felt like every time we talked to a doctor, it was like, no. We're not going to give you any good news. Everything is going to be like, it's a matter of, we're going to stay negative about everything. And I was like,
I wonder how much of that is them making sure and always preparing for that kind of situation to avoid things like lawsuits or malpractice.
That's
And
what everything was the whole time we were
yeah,
there.
yeah, like
Um,
making sure that they were like almost over caring for bad situations when they hadn't even presented themselves yet, just because they
yep,
wanted to cover their own butts. I mean, it's a negative way to think, but I mean, it's also I don't have a lot of faith
yeah.
in that sort of system. But
And the hospital stay itself, we were there 7 days.
oh my goodness, oh my
So
gosh.
and they made the mistake of, with COVID going on, I pretty much had to wear a mask the
Mm-hmm.
7 days.
Yeah.
Um, I was allowed to remove the mask when it was my wife and I in the room, or if it was just one medical professional in the room, I didn't have to wear it, but I usually did,
Mm-hmm.
unless they woke me up from sleeping. Um,
Right.
and and Erica didn't have to wear a mask because she was the patient, and she had gotten tested for COVID upon our arrival at the hospital,
Right.
and she tested negative, and they said, but because the two of us have both been working from home and we live together, if she tested negative, they were just going to assume I was going to test negative.
With a shortage of tests, I mean that's a decent assumption. Like if you guys have been careful and given that situation, I'd say that's pretty good. Especially if they, I mean, they must have taken your temperature or something at some point.
Yeah, they took my temperature and they checked me, and
Do an
but
examination. Yeah.
they did an exam, but they didn't do any tests. And they were like, if she's fine and she's testing negative, then we're just going to assume you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I pretty much wore the mask, and then I had to go out into the hallway to get somebody at one point, and it was like an emergency situation, and I had left my mask sitting on like the table next to me, and had to go out and get a nurse, and like the nurses were like having a conniption fit that I was in the hallway without a mask. I was like, I'm just getting you. You're not coming when the call button's pressed. Get your butts in here.
Mm.
And they were like, we're not going to talk to you until you get a mask. I'm like, fine. They made me go back in the room, put a mask back on, and then come back on the hallway and be like, are you not answering the call button? And they're like, oh, we didn't see that. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the importance of masks. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but around here, it's law for any inside space. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Same here. Same here.
Yeah. I mean,
and I pretty much wear a mask as soon as I leave the house to go anywhere, unless I'm doing yard work.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I don't wear it if I'm out for a run or if I'm walking to where I'm going, but it's in my pocket. Like I mean, it's in my pocket, ready to go.
I pretty much leave it in the car at all times, so
Yeah.
that if I go anywhere, it's right there.
Mine hangs next to my hat at the front door
Yeah.
because just and it's simple. It's such a simple thing to do. I have been slowly but surely trying to find faith in an alternative food stuff from the grocery store, because I don't know about you guys, but my local grocery store, it's astronomical. And it's not like any one thing is like, oh my gosh, that's crazy pricey. And in some cases, I would even say that some of the regular items that I get are actually cheaper. Things like a bag of half dozen bagels are like $2.50 where they're normally $3.50. So the ticket prices I notice are lower, but my grocery bills are way higher. Like my grocery budget has gone from $350 to $450 a month, like easily. And so
we haven't had I'd say 3 months ago, we found our grocery bill was like doubling.
Mm-hmm.
We went from, I would go to the grocery store once a week and spend like 60 to 80 bucks, and I was spending like 120 every time I went. And that was like every week or every other week. And now, after the things in the grocery store starting to get back to normal, and our grocery bill recently just started going back down to where it used to be.
Yeah, see, for me, I know the bills are higher in terms of the actual loads because I'm only grocery shopping once a week. And so having a $90 grocery bill once a week is not totally surprising because I'm shopping half as often as I used to, right? So rather than complaining about, I go for a grocery trip and it would take $30 to $40 to fill a bag, I'm now complaining it takes, $90 to $100 to fill 2 or 3 bags of the larger fabric reusable bags that I use.
Right.
And the issue is that it's not double though. Like it's more than double what I would pay when I'm going twice a week. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that, and also the quality of a lot of things have just gone downhill. And I've been noticing that about my local grocery store long before the pandemic. And so I'm always really excited in the springtime when the farmers market starts to open,
Yeah.
and I can get
Ours just open.
alternative vegetables. But it was, of course, it was late this year. Plus, they had to accommodate for COVID stuff, and everybody's outside now in a parking lot, which is good because it means that it's a lot easier than trying to manage an inside space. There's way more room, to walk around rather than inside a terminal, ferry terminal, which is normally where it is. And but the first time I went, the vendors, it was very slim pickings. Even though there was dozen, maybe more vendors, none of them were wearing a mask properly. And I just
Oh,
went in there like, you're handling food. You're not a giant corporation. There's no one monitoring you. So I mean, unless you have the common sense to wear the mask over your mouth and nose and have it on at all times, I'm not buying from you. Period. And
yeah.
because there's no regulation there, right? There's just a matter of trust. And so there is a farm in the valley that I buy quite a bit from, and they weren't there. And so I made a point this week to look for them, and I found them, and they're back to doing regular business. And but they had we'll say that the people are slightly younger that are running the counter, and
Yeah.
they all had masks. They had gloves. They had all these different things. They actually, I think the only person wearing gloves was someone that was on the checkout. I think everybody else that was handling the food didn't, but they had hand wash for themselves, like at their tent. And
Yeah.
so it became a real issue for me walking around. That's why I brought it up, because of the whole mask thing, because I don't mind it, and that I'm wearing a mask myself. And as the rules were stated when I walked into the parking lot, it said all of our vendors will wear masks. All of the patrons are encouraged to wear masks, but are not required because you're outside. And because they can't really, well,
Enforce.
they could enforce it if it was an established building or area, but they've just sort of taken over a parking lot with pylons, so it's not like it's any specific. There's no owner, to
Uh,
enforce the rules. Um,
up the street from me, I have there's two grocery stores up the street from me, and a super Walmart and a department store. And those are like the only four locations we go ever. And we usually wear masks, usually carry a bottle of hand sanitizer, we usually take all precautions. And just recently, our Walmart has an armed security guard at the door. And when I was going in, I stopped and I said, "This is new. What are you here for?" And he said, "It's a national Walmart policy now for us to be here as an armed security guard, because across the country we've had issues with people that won't wear masks even though the state law mandates them to go inside, and we've even had people get physically violent or even bring firearms." And so Walmart has now issued security guards to all of their locations.
Yeah, I didn't know about the security guard thing, but I've seen news clippings from the U.S. about people bringing weapons to Walmart because they refuse to wear masks. I was like, guys, like it's not that difficult. But the thing that kind of struck me about the farmers market was like, they say all the vendors are going to wear masks, but then they don't enforce it. And you've got
Oh,
vendors with masks around their chin, not covering any part of their mouth or nose. You've got vendors with masks hanging under their nose, which defeats the purpose. And then I saw one vendor that had the mask on his forehead. Like when you take your sunglasses off, and when you put them up on your forehead. And I was just
yeah.
like, what the crap, man? Like, I'm not buying. So when I go to the farmers market, it's not as plentiful as it would normally be, because there's some vendors that, while I enjoy their produce, I'm just like, well, I'm not buying from you because you can't get a clue, or obey the rules, or think the rules don't apply. So, however, on the flip side, I have been eating very well, because this farm that's back had a lot of really good stuff. We had, like, I got like a valley strawberries and valley corn, and there's a big special from one of the, I think they're Amish. I don't really know, but they one of the other tables I quite like. They had a special on green beans. It was like $6 for 2 pounds or something, bananas. And the thing about, I find that I from buying from a farmer's market now, which I never used to do, but out of no other reason than just ignorance and laziness and all that kind of stuff. I've got produce in the fridge now that's been in there since last Saturday. I had some green beans at lunch today. They're still fine. Like they've been
Mm-hmm.
in there almost a week. and they're fine. And I'll buy if I get broccoli from somewhere, like a grocery store, it's wilted in like 2 days. Whereas like the broccoli that I get on Saturday is still good, you know. And
I will tell you a funny story. So while I've been on, I get 12 weeks of leave while the baby since we've had the baby, which is actually it's supposed to be 16, but because I broke my leg, I had to use 4 weeks for my leg.
right.
Back in January. So I get 12 weeks of leave, which for men in America is like unheard of. You get 2 weeks if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Some places even force you to use your own vacation time. Um, so I get 12 weeks of leave, because my company's awesome. And so, I mean, only one of us really needs to watch the baby at a time. So we've both been taking turns doing like small projects around the house. Erica has some crafting projects she wants to get done. So I'll watch the baby in the afternoon while she does that, or in the morning. And so she can go run an errand to the store or whatever. And then I've been doing small projects around the house. And one of the things is we've had this clutter in the corner of our kitchen that's kind of like produce and and a couple bags of cookies and stuff, and it's just a corner mess. And so I ordered off Amazon like a hanging basket and a hook, and I've installed a hanging basket and a hook so we can hang like the garlic and the onions from the hanging basket, and I can keep the potatoes back in the corner out of the way. And one of the things I realized when I was cleaning up the corner is we had a spaghetti squash that I don't know how old it is.
Oh
I'm
God.
pretty sure it might be close to a year and a half old.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to throw this away. Still pristine condition. Knocked on it, still feels great, not even rotted or worn out. And I said to my wife, I said, okay, honey, so we need to buy more of this because this lasts forever.
Yeah, I've heard that spaghetti squash is good. I think I've had it before, maybe over at Peyton's place one time, but I haven't. There's a few things that I haven't tried, or I think to like when I see them at the farmers market, I want to buy them, but then I realize like I don't know how to cook them. Like I kind of want to like do a little bit of research because then it's like, well, what do I buy two? Do I buy one? Like what's the deal? And so
I
I've had a
usually
little bit of
buy
research to
one,
do.
make a small batch, see if I like it, and then if I do, I'll
Yeah.
buy twice the next time.
Yeah. The other thing that I was really thrilled about was that rhubarb was really good. That I
Yeah,
picked up, so I'll be picking up more of that. It was hard. There's usually like this lady that has like I'm assuming her table is mostly like her back garden. She doesn't strike me as a farmer, but her rhubarb is like as long as my arm, and it's like $2.50. It's like and it turns into something crazy like 4 to 5 cups of rhubarb. But it was
yeah,
pretty green when I was there on Saturday, and so I went with a smaller bundle for $3 from a different vendor. Actually, it was from this farm that I like, and it was a really good rhubarb. But I only got like 3 cups out of it,
yeah,
which is fine. It's still cheap, $3 for. I mean, I paid $3 for the rhubarb, and I paid $7 for strawberries. Now, granted, that's not cheap for strawberries, but it was a quart of strawberries,
yeah,
and and they'll last a while because I put them in pancakes a couple times, and I put a full cup of strawberries into the strawberry rhubarb crumble that I made on the weekend. Last piece is tonight
yeah.
because it lasts a little while. But yeah, like just being able to do stuff like that has been great because it's been really warm here. I won't get into the weather talk, but it means just a lot of time inside because while we can go outside and do things, in the summertime during the pandemic, it's been too hot to enjoy in the city. Like I'd have to get outside of the city, go to the
Yeah.
beach or people. I mean, all my friends have been going to the beach or going for hikes, stuff like that. And it just hasn't. I haven't had the opportunity because I don't have a car. But the city has just been unmanageable. So I was like, well, I can't do anything or go anywhere. There's no vacation this year, so I'm just spending all my money on food. Just like I'm just going to
Yeah.
eat
No,
really well.
we luck out. We have a lake with a small little beach up the street from us, but they've been so mobbed with people with
Yeah,
the heat that Erica and I are like, we'll just stay home.
yeah. Yeah, better to wait, especially
Yeah, with the
now
baby, we're
with
like,
the baby and pandemic and all that kind of stuff for sure. Well, that brings us into the other things that I have been doing to pass the time. I've been hiding indoors and using air conditioning, and one of the things that I've been doing has been podcasting. Imagine that. Why am
oh
I
yeah,
bringing this up? We hit 100 episodes on the Spawn Chunks last week. So, celebrating that with the community, we released the render distance, which is the full patron only version of the show to the public for the 100th episode. So, normally the Spawn Chunks is about an hour and 10 minutes, give or take, on Minecraft, Minecraft news, Minecraft conversation and gameplay. The render distance is a little bit more like the Citadel Cafe, where Johnny and I will take 15 to 20 minutes of the pre show and about 10 or 15 minutes in the post show and just talk about whatever. Doesn't really matter. Could be this week it was air conditioning in Britain and haircuts, and then another week it was Satisfactory, and he brought up Fallout Guys. I think was one of the things we brought up past week.
Yep.
So there's just little things like that, and so if you're interested in that, you can find. There's actually been another episode. We've done 101, but episode 100 since the last time I recorded the Citadel Cafe. That is up at thespawnchunks.com. You can listen to the full 2-hour render distance and check out to see what might be going on over there behind the Patreon paywall. Because supporters get the render distance, but then people that are just listening in public spaces get the Spawn Chunks regular episodes. So that's one of the things. I've actually surprisingly not been playing a lot of Minecraft. I played on weekends. I've been doing a lot of streaming, but I'm still streaming mostly Satisfactory. And I am enjoying it. I streamed every day last week, and it was fun. I don't think I'm going to stream every day all the time. But it's one of those things where like, well, dinner is done, the dishes are done, the adulting's done, and it's 8 o'clock. I'm going to play some video games. I might as well turn on a stream and play it with people because it's more fun that way. And so I have been enjoying that. I have, however, and I won't dwell on Satisfactory too much because I've talked about it in the show a couple weeks now, but I've hit kind of like a mid-game stall where it's good. It's still a very creative game, but everything I'm doing now takes a lot longer. The tasks are larger. So it's no longer see that coal mine over there, you have to get the coal over here and turn it into something. And it's like, okay, well, that's going to take a couple hours, but at least I can see everything that I'm doing. I'm now to the point where I have to build train routes to the special minerals that are in the world to gather them and bring them back to make things like aluminum, work on turbo fuel and some of the higher tier items in the game. We've unlocked all the tech, so that's good. So in a way, from a tech tree sort of standpoint, there's only one last little item that I have yet to unlock. But as far as the tiers go, we've got everything. We've got access to nuclear power. We've got access to all kinds of stuff. So I'm noticing that I'm not burnt out on it, but it's less satisfying, pardon the pun, when you do a 3-hour stream and you've accomplished a third of the task. And then you kind of go, oh, wow, okay, this is going to take all week. And so I just have to have a different mindset. And I'm also taking on something quite large. After building in a very tight space in that game for a little while, I'm now building a large factory, like huge factory space. Lots of room to make things look good without having to cram it all into one little space. And I'm calling it the Devastator. And as given, some people might clue in, but if you don't, then I'm taking the design cues for this factory from the 80s Decepticon combiner robot Devastator from the Generation 1 Transformers. I might take some design cues as well from the IDW comic series, but a lot of it's just basically green and purple construction vehicles, like lots of gears and just big moving parts and stuff like that. So the idea is to just kind of like quadruple my intake of resources and see what I can do. And at this point, it's going to be not about making a factory as efficient, although efficient is going to be needed because otherwise you're just wasting time. But I also want it to look good. My other factory builds in the game previously were aesthetically pleasing, but restricted by function. Like this is as good as it's going to get in the space it's going to be in. Whereas now is I can choose the shape of the building before I make the factory, and so that's going to be fun. There's not a lot of decoration things in the game, but you can have some fun with some different ideas, and I've got some thoughts, and moving and changing some colors and getting into trains has been fun. The one thing I will say, and it's my first real big complaint about the game, I don't find the adventuring in the game very fun. I find it very tedious. It's way more fun for me to build a factory and do all that kind of stuff, but when I have to adventure out into the world, it's almost like that part of the game is secondary so far in the development, and it's unforgiving.
I mean, I've told you before, games like this are not my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watched a trailer for this the other day, because I was like, Icy Joel's been playing a ton of this. I should at least watch the video on Steam and see what this is like, because I can already know that this is probably not for me. And I watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is not for me. And then when I watched like the actiony, like exploring bits, I'm like, oh yeah, this is still not for me. This doesn't even look like fun to me. This looks like tedious. Never
So,
mind.
and that was the thing that I was so disappointed with, is that like when you go to build the train tracks outside of your factory, it goes on the ground, and they snap in really weird ways, and they go through the ground, and they get clipped by rocks, and it doesn't look very good. And so there, again, the game is in development, so there could be different things coming, but it's one of those situations where you see a lot of these playthroughs where people build sky trains. They build the platforms up in the air because there's no build limit for gravity. Like you can kind of build things as high as you want and just and without any support, and they'll just kind of stay there. And it
Yeah.
looks dumb to me, but I can understand now from the frustration of trying to run the trains along the ground why so many people do it. They probably spend 10 minutes doing what I try to do and be like, nope, this is broken. I am not trying this. Um,
Yeah.
the win that I will get in the end, despite how long it's taking, is that when I go to ride this train and take it to different places, then it will be a very scenic route, not just a boring straight line that just goes over everything, as opposed to going through valleys and around forests and stuff like that. So, I
Right.
mean, that's kind of where I am with it. I have, however, watched. I mentioned last week on the show, I was talking about Wolf Machina, who's a streamer that I've been watching, and he's been playing a lot of Astroneer. And I own Astroneer. I picked it up actually either during the Steam summer sale or just before. So I've had it for a few weeks now, and I've never actually played it. I have now installed it though. I installed it the other day because it does look really fun. Again, probably not a game for you. Um, it's more exploring and picking up resources and building things. The idea, from what I can get from the outside, is that you are stranded on a planet, and the mission goal is to gather resources and build your rocket so that you can get off the stranded planet and get back home. Is essentially the game scenario. But they've recently added automation to the game, which is what piqued my interest to look back into it. That was released on June 24th, 2020. It's funny, like I'm noticing a trend, like with all the video games I'm playing currently, Minecraft, Satisfactory, and interest in Astroneer. Uh, they all seem to have this like collect, manufacture, create sort of theme to them. And some are more creative than others. Minecraft is very creative. Obviously, you can just kind of really make things look quite good and have a lot of choices in that game. I'm not sure about Astroneer. Astroneer seems more technical, kind of like more prefab. Um, but I'm interested in playing it. I've watched Wolf Machina play it again on stream, and it looks like a lot of fun. It's pretty cartoony and bright too, and not that Satisfactory doesn't have a lot of bright colors, but I find that sometimes I'm just feeling a little bit drab. Like I don't want something fun and cartoony and bubbly and that sort of thing. So that's basically what I've been consuming. I have been looking into No Man's Sky. I own it, and I put some time into it around Christmas time when I first got my PC, but I haven't been back in a while. And I don't know. There's been a number of updates. There's now mechs in the game. There's now crossplay, and there's like a horror section to it now. You can go and explore abandoned freighters, and they're all like covered in alien bad guys and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I want to get into that or not. I do find that I'm enjoying the chill game experience. I do own Borderlands 3, so that's on my list as well. But I really, again, I just have not been in the mood to consume traditional media in terms of Netflix and TV shows and movies and stuff. It's been more about streams and stuff I can pick up and put down, in a couple of minutes, or things that are just long and ongoing and not story based. So it doesn't really matter if I have Wolf or Max the Catfish or Kibitz or somebody on in the background, because if I tune out, I'm not missing anything. Like they're just streaming. It's not like I don't tune back in and go, hey guys, what did I miss? Like nothing. He's been doing the same thing for, playing the same
Yeah.
game for an hour. Like he might have built more trains or he might have done more stuff, but that's about it. So, but yeah, so I'm doing a lot of streaming. I'm focusing on that content right now over at twitch.tv/Joel Duggan. So if that's the kind of content you're looking for, I'm looking to grow the channel. And if people want to go over there and check it out, chances are if you're here, you've probably found me there first. But tell your friends. It's free to do that, and it's been a really fun community. We've brought in some new people as I've been streaming Satisfactory. I've noticed a shift as I've been bringing in more Satisfactory fans who maybe aren't around for the Minecraft streams, but then some of the Minecraft people are around for the Satisfactory streams. So the conversation gets like intermixed, and it's really cool
Yeah.
because then you see like-minded people from different fandoms kind of coming to mix in one spot. It's a really awesome experience. But
I've noticed that in the Discord that I look in and I'm like, what are they talking about? Oh wow, it's been a while since I've been in here. I have no idea what's going on anymore.
yeah, the Discord has grown quite a bit, and because my Discord, it's a combination. For those of you that don't know that are listening to the Citadel Cafe, support of the Citadel Cafe on Patreon, support of myself personally on Patreon as I do art stuff and streaming, and any Twitch subscription will all get you into the same Discord. So it's just a matter of where you like to hang your support hat. It gives people choices, and some people don't like Patreon. Some people don't have PayPal. They prefer to just get some Twitch bits and Twitch subs and just do it that way. And that's fine. But it means that everybody that's in that community can then get kind of like cross-pollinated with Citadel Cafe fans and stuff. So it's all one big happy place, and it's a good spot. I'm quite enjoying the Discord. It's a nice, polite, because it all involves some sort of financial support. There's no riffraff. Like there's no assholes. Yep. Like everybody seems to be pretty level-headed and fun and stuff like that, which is great. So and again, I don't want to turn this into a Patreon ad, but I really appreciate all the support and all the. I don't mean it financially or just financially, but like the conversational support, the fun and things and resources that I have, to go to and talk with people in the community surrounding this podcast, as well as my own personal work, has been great because I think a lot of people, as we've mentioned a number of times over the last few months, are home a lot, and don't have a lot to do in some cases, and providing a nice community where everybody's welcome is really cool, I think. Speaking of streams, I did an art stream. I almost forgot to mention that. So I designed my first emote for Twitch, and I did that live yesterday. So there's a VOD for that on Twitch if you want to see that. So yeah, what have you been up to, man?
Well, the baby takes up time. So when we've been consuming stuff, we've been trying to consume things that are like 20-minute episodes, and then we can walk away.
Yeah.
In case baby needs a diaper change. All right, we'll finish. This episode's got 3 minutes left. Pause it. We'll come back, and then we'll see if we're in the mood to finish another episode. So, unlike you, I've been watching a lot of Netflix, and I don't know if you caught it because I know you're a fan of Troll Hunters.
Yeah.
But Wizards Tales of Arcadia just hit Netflix the other day, and it's like a continuation of Troll Hunters. But from the perspective of a newer character I wasn't that familiar with, who is like Merlin's apprentice.
Cool, because I knew that was coming. I haven't finished Three Below, which is the middle part of the trilogy.
I will tell you right now, I have not watched Three Below. We went right to this.
Oh.
Because your recommendation was the Three Below was kind of eh.
Yeah, it's not the best.
And I will say this. There was a couple of things that I didn't know had happened that I think happened in Three Below, but I caught up with what was going on really, really quick.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, it's the tail end of Three Below where they start to really heavily cross over with Troll Hunters.
Yes.
And that bleeds into the Wizards thing.
Yeah, and that's the gist I got. My guess is if you watch like the last 2 or 3 episodes of Three Below, you'll get what's going on in the beginning of Wizards. And we didn't, and we still caught up by the end of the first episode. We're like, oh, okay, I get what's going on here.
Nice.
And in fact, the main wizard character, Duritz, or I can't pronounce his name. He's got a weird name. But I think he was introduced in Three Below, maybe?
Perhaps.
And he's the main character. And by the end of the first episode, you're like, okay, I get it. He knows these people. He knows what's going on. And he's their friend. Okay, I don't need to know anymore.
Right.
And it was not what Three Below was. My only gripe about the whole series is Steve is more of a main character, the doofy jock dude who's always an idiot.
Yeah.
And he sometimes is like actually kind of awesome, but that's like every third episode he does something kind of cool, and then otherwise he's just the guy making the dumb jokes. Like he keeps like they end up time traveling, and he keeps trying to send text messages to like his friends and stuff, and being like, "Ugh, I got no signal." And it's like, dude, you're in the dark ages. You're not gonna get a signal, idiot. Like
Mm-hmm.
like and then like and they do a lot of those kind of jokes, but his character has potential, and they keep wasting it. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
stop using him to do.
he was the dumb boyfriend joke guy in Three Below. He dates one of the aliens. He has a crush on one of
Yeah,
the aliens, and he's just this constant. The joke there is that he's this constant moron, but she finds him endearing, and so
yeah,
they continue to spend time together. It's odd because
and
culturally she's really intelligent. I can't remember her name, Mara or something. But
yeah,
but
she is not in Wizards at all.
okay,
Um, her brother is, but he doesn't show up till the end of the series.
right, yeah. And they're really intelligent, but culturally they're out of clue. Like they don't have they don't have an idiot. I can't speak today. They don't have a clue what's going on with human culture, and so they
Right.
seem dumb, but they're not dumb. They're out of touch, and so her out of touchness and his stupidity kind of like match together to mean they can. When she's out of touch, he doesn't notice because he's
Yeah.
not smart enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
I found that they overplayed the Steve Dumb card. And
well, the thing they do in Wizards that is interesting is he becomes a Knight of the Round Table, and and when they time travel back to the like their current period, he's like, "So, am I the head of the Knights of the Round Table now?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is potential. This could be cool." And then they kind of wasted on like a couple of dumb jokes, and I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah, never mind."
yeah. Well,
But
I'm
but
sure I'll watch it because I did really like Troll Hunters, and
if you like Troll Hunters, might as well be called Troll Hunters from the Wizard's perspective.
so I'm trying. I think Three Below had 2 seasons. Troll Hunters had three, I think,
Uh,
and I'd have to look.
Wizards is listed on Netflix as a limited run series.
Oh, so it might be just like the finale sort of wrap up sort of
It's
thing.
not. I will tell you this: it ends on like a epic kind of like we kind of saved the day, but uh, there
More
is
stuff
more
could
coming.
happen. Yeah. Okay. Well,
And
they
and
do that
and
with the other series too.
they do. I know they do that. I have a funny feeling that there's going to be something like next one is going to be like Knights of the Round Table, Tales of Arcadia, or something.
Right. Well, and the other thing too is that like the production companies are all feeling the squeeze from the pandemic, so they maybe had to change the way that it was being made and released. And
It is 10 episodes, which I believe all the other
oh,
series
maybe, yeah.
were like 16. 10 episodes feels perfect.
Well,
They
that's
do
good.
not there is no filler episodes. They
Oh,
do not
thank
wait.
God.
If there is a filler episode, it's like one episode, and they use it to like cover plot points.
That's good. I'm glad that they did that because the filler episodes in Three Below were painful. That's why I bailed. I was like, I don't care about the dog. Why are we following the dog for this episode? Like you're dealing with space aliens and like
Okay,
princesses and princesses and invasion. Like give me more of that. I don't care about their dog.
I will say this: there is one filler episode in the middle, and it's only to provide backstory to the wizard that's the main character, because they never explain to you how he became Merlin's apprentice.
Right.
And halfway through the story, something becomes they make a comment about how he became Merlin's apprentice, and the filler episode is that whole backstory.
Right.
And you go, oh, okay, now a lot more things make more sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
They kind of
Okay.
need to do that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm okay with stuff like that. Like character development, I don't think is necessarily filler episodes just because it takes
Yeah.
away from the overall plot moving forward. It's the stuff that's a complete divergence from anything that we've done it before too. Like insert teen drama episode here. Like do not care. Like not
I will say this: there is very little of that teen drama angst stuff.
cool.
There's a little bit of it because the wizard chick the shadow. I can't
Oh
think of her
yes,
name.
I know who you mean. I can't remember her name either.
Her and Jim get separated, and there's kind of like a little bit of drama there, but it's like 2 minutes of like a 25-minute episode. And you're
Right.
like, oh, okay, I can blink and this is over.
Nice.
So it's not that bad. It's not that big a deal.
Cool. It's on my list. I definitely, want to see it, and it might actually get me to go back and finish Three Below because I'm about halfway through. I don't have that much to watch. I just, it's one of those
So
things.
so so the other thing that Eric and I have been doing is, well, now that we have a baby at home, we've been trying to figure out what we're going to have the kid watch,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm almost 40. I have no idea what kids are watching right now. So,
Paw
uh,
Patrol.
yeah, we're gonna try and avoid that. But I've been browsing like different uh, other services to see what they have, and while I was browsing Netflix under kids, I came across Netflix has a bunch of Scooby Doo stuff, and I came across something that was like a newer Scooby Doo, and I watched like 2 episodes of it, and it was okay, but it was kind of goofy, and I didn't, the voice actors were all different from what I remember as a kid. I was like, this isn't that great. And then I came across there was another Scooby Doo show that was like from like 2010 or 2012 called Scooby Doo Mysteries Incorporated,
Yeah.
and I started watching that. And Welker is the voice of Scooby and Fred, and it is a continuous story in the Scooby Doo universe. Like episode to episode, there's like an overarching plot.
Interesting.
And I was like, huh. And it's like 52 episodes. Erica and I watched 52 episodes in a week.
So you're saying it's pretty good then?
And I'm saying it's pretty good. It's like all takes place in like the town that they all supposedly are kids in, teenagers in, and it's like Crystal Cove, and it's supposed to be the spookiest place on earth. That's their marketing scheme to get tourists to come to town. Is everything is like every corner is like going to Salem, Massachusetts, where they have like a haunted house booth set up in this corner, or this mansion down the street. This hotel is haunted. Come stay at this hotel. It's haunted. And like they're constantly like solving mysteries and proving things aren't haunted. And so the mayor, who is Fred's dad, is like constant like, will you stop solving the mysteries? You're making the tourists go away. And the premise is that this guy who calls himself Mr. E is sending them on these like little mysteries, and it keeps leading them to things that like maybe there's something going on in town that they don't realize is going on, and it leads to a bigger mystery, and people that they're friends with may not actually be their friends, and like in like this kind of like overarching like an overarching story in the Scooby-Doo universe. And they get some pretty good guest cameos. Some horror movie actors step in and do some voice acting. My favorite cameo is at one point they have to go to a college because there is an H.P. Lovecraft wannabe. They call him H.P. Hatecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And it's voiced by a famous horror movie actor. I can't think of his name at the moment. But I've actually seen this guy perform live on stage and do a one-man show of Edgar Allan Poe, and it was awesome. So seeing him voice H.P. Lovecraft was really, 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 really awesome. And then the other person that's in that same episode is the late Harlan Ellison, who wrote a bunch of Star Trek and Babylon 5 episodes and is famous for being a sci-fi novelist, and he plays himself.
Cool.
And literally Harlan makes like 4 appearances in this show, and every time you're like, wow, what did they do to get Harlan Ellison, who was probably in his 70s at the time? What did they do to get him on an episode of Scooby-Doo? Because he doesn't do anything. He's a grump. How did they get him on Scooby-Doo?
Nice. Is Haycraft voiced by Jeffrey Combs?
Jeffrey Combs, yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's right. And he's famous for being in a bunch of Star Trek episodes. He's been in like more episodes of Star Trek than like any other person on history that wasn't a regular cast member.
Oh, like one of like is he an alien, or he's like a doctor, or
yeah, he's an alien. And then in Deep Space Nine, he's one of the bad guys. Oh, it's like a reoccurring villain. And there's actually episodes of Deep Space Nine where he plays 3 different characters in the same episode where they just change his makeup. Like he at one point he plays like a human that comes on screen as like a diplomat, and then he's also a Ferengi that's arguing with the diplomat, and then he also plays the bad guy alien that shows up midway through the episode, and it's all like the same episode of Deep
Oh,
Space Nine. And you're like, wow,
he was the Andorian in Enterprise.
yes,
Yes, yeah. I don't really recognize his face, obviously, because he's usually in alien makeup or something. But his voice, I would recognize immediately.
yes,
Yeah.
and he's also one of the reasons why they had him do the H.P. Lovecraft spin like rip off character is he's been in like 7 or 8 movies based on H.P. Lovecraft's work. And so he's even played H.P. Lovecraft in a couple of movies.
Oh,
So
cool.
getting him to voice this character was very like tongue in cheek. And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of awesome."
Yeah, the showrunners know what's up. They know who to get for certain things. That's cool.
Like I started watching it as a goof, and Erica got up and watched like 2 episodes. She was like, "Can we just keep watching this?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." And so, like I said, 52 episodes later, we were like, oh, "Okay." And it's one of those things where I didn't feel that bad that the baby was sitting there watching TV with us, because I mean, I won't lie, she's already sat through 2 zombie movies with me. So
Yeah. Well, I think Ryan even mentioned last week on the show that that it doesn't really matter what you guys are watching right now, as long as it's not loud, then it's not a big deal. It's only going to be
yeah,
later that you have to worry about the actual content when they can perceive and
yeah.
process what's going on screen. But right on. Well, moving into the Internet Minute, it is of course brought to you by you. Hey, to hear that? It's not an advertisement because we don't have advertisements on the podcast. It's because of the support of listeners that we can run the show without advertisements. It's 100% listener supported. If you get value out of the show, please consider putting a little bit of value back in. You can become a member at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Joining at any level that has a reward attached to it will get you access to the member-only Discord server, as well as access to bonus episodes that happen from time to time. We have 21 patrons at the month and mark of August 12th. And I'm always trying to get one more patron a month. So we've been at 21 for the month of August so far. I'd love to have 22 by the time September rolls around because it would meet that goal. So again, if you'd like to support the show, it's patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. And my pick this week, I pulled from my listening segment, and it is the Michelle Obama podcast on Spotify. I got an email from Spotify, as I often do because I run the podcasts on Spotify, letting me know that this was coming about a month ago. And I thought, ooh, okay, that's going to be interesting because I like both Michelle Obama and her husband Barack, and whenever they're speaking or giving some sort of talk or on some sort of talk show, I usually kind of perk up. Those are the YouTube clips that I'll watch for sure. So I was curious because, of course, there was a trailer for the podcast. It's pretty heavily edited. It's obviously very professionally produced because they can do that. It's a Spotify exclusive, so you're not going to get it anywhere else. But her first show was with Barack Obama, and it was really, really good. There's no politics really. They talk about community and the importance of it and their experience with it and how they think it needs to change going forward. They very lightly touch on a pandemic. They've sort of mentioned policy here and there, but they talk about their past in terms of how community and how they have interacted with community over the last however professional years they have between them has affected how they approach it. And it was really interesting. And with all that, it also wasn't very dry because, of course, it's her husband and, it's a more casual situation. They're not in front of a bunch of people. They're just being recorded, somewhere. And so it starts off with jokes. It ends with jokes. He tries to get a couple of brownie points and stuff like that. It's cute in that sort of way, but it's also informative and really just well-spoken and thoughtful. And so I would encourage people to check it out. The Michelle Obama podcast on Spotify. Have you heard about this?
I have not. This is new to me.
Easy listen. It's they'll throw it on while you're doing dishes or making dinner or whatever. I would imagine, especially in households, I'm sure it applies to me. It applies to everybody, but I think that people that have like more time resources or are looking to do more in their own neighborhoods or more in their own communities, I feel like it would be a really good podcast to have, not on earphones, but like on a speaker that would encourage conversation, among friends or family. Be really interesting. Right. But Well, that brings us to the end of the Citadel Cafe. You can get more info about the show and the links to some of the things that we talked about here at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email us at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or follow the show by name on Twitter. Subscribe on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. And you can also tell your friends about it. Just tell a friend that you like the show and where they can listen to the Citadel Cafe. It's a great way for people to discover the podcast. My name is Joel Duggan. Everything that I do online can be found at joelduggan.com. That includes links to my portfolio as well as the other podcasts I do, like The Spawn Chunks that comes out every Monday. It's all about Minecraft. And my Twitch page is twitch.tv/Joel Duggan. I'm very easy to find, doing a lot of content over there. Come over and hang out. It's a lot of fun. Lou, where can people find you online?
The easiest place to find me is on my podcast, Zombies Ate My Podcast, where we've talked about quite a few different zombie things coming up. So our upcoming episode, I believe we're going to go in depth into the brand new zombie film Yummy, about an outbreak in a plastic surgery hospital. I've already watched it. It is definitely entertaining. It is a throwback to 80s zombie movies. So if you like 80s zombie movies, this is right up your alley. And other than that, you can find me on all the social media under the name Busy Zombie Lord.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.